Yo, Zama, everyone. Welcome back to reacting to other people's content instead of making my own. Featuring. Here you go. Don't make this assumption about your players. And the thumbnail had something about difficulty, so I mean, basically, I think the point of this video is that we're not supposed to assume. Actually, I'm not gonna like it yet. I'm not watched it yet. Well, let's just start watching.
My name's Mark, and I am making a video game about magnets. Okay.
So basically, I think what he's going to talk about is that you shouldn't assume your players are good / bad. Now, how not to do that in your game is difficult, because even when I think about games like Hollow Knight, for example, you know, a good example of a pretty difficult game, but also possible, that game kind of assumes I guess, yeah, like if you're really shit, like I had a friend who was really bad at games, he couldn't beat it, he just quit. So I want to know exactly what it means. So I'm gonna stop guessing now. Let's watch it.
Them into a demo, slap that demo onto a Steam Deck, fly to San Francisco, and give the demo to people attending the Game Developers Conference. But with just 1 week to go before my flight, I gave my demo to a key playtester, and he did not enjoy it. He found it to be frustrating and tedious, and gave up before the demo was even over. And it was in that moment that I realized I had made a huge and pretty common mistake when it came to thinking about my game's level of difficulty. What did I do wrong? And critically, was I able to fix it before flying out to California?
That's what I want to know, man. That's so stressful. Imagine finding out your game has a huge flaw, or the thing you've been working on has a huge flaw, and you find that out like the day you're writing an assignment, right? An essay. The day before you hand it in. Oh, right. I forgot to do this. The whole paragraph of shit that I kept. To
find out.
We'll say an hour before you hand it in, because I feel like writing a paragraph within a day is very easy.
Okay, let me back up a little bit. In the previous episode, I showed you how I used a puzzle matrix to help generate ideas.
We might watch the context episodes later, but see, he's actually explaining shit to us right now, so we don't necessarily have to watch the context episodes. Again, we might if the video is good.
6 different levels. Then, after that episode went live, I bundled them into a pretty chunky hour-long demo featuring 3 different worlds, 2 different magnets, and a bunch of different mechanics like color-changing panels, laser beams, moving platforms, boxes on wheels, spinning switches, and so on. As always, the first
standard
people
puzzle
to get
game
this
shit.
demo were
Looks interesting, I suppose.
GMTK patrons on my Discord. They gave me loads of feedback and advice and unearthed bugs, exploits, annoyances, and inconsistencies. As always, I am hugely grateful.
Sorry for the cringe flick. It's getting in my eyes.
Completely out of the blue, I get an email from one Patrick Traynor, the Patrick of Patrick's Parabox, the brilliant puzzle game I showed in the previous episode of this series. He thanked me for including his game in my video and wished me luck with
that's a cool looking game
I showed in the previous episode.
Look at that. So why am I watching 480p? What the hell? Look at that. So the movement of the big character is like mimicked inside the tiny box.
For including his
that's
game
so
in
cool.
my video and wished me luck with my Magnet game. And I said, "Want to play a demo?" He very kindly said yes, and then a few days later, I get an email with a single word, played, and a link to a YouTube video, a 2-hour playthrough of the game. Now, if you're wondering why I'm hesitating, he gave me no indication of whether or not he liked.
Oh, okay. I see. Yeah. Well, I played it, and well, I guess okay. Here's what I think. You watch the footage, right? The footage of the guy playing the game, and you analyze it, right? Did he struggle a lot? Did he end up? Is 2 hours too much time? Is the game supposed to be beaten? Like, I think you come to conclusions based on what you expected.
Him evaluate it in real time, and so if he hated the game, I would just have to sit there and watch someone become more and more disappointed in me.
Yeah.
You know,
doesn't sound too pleasant.
Parents are for, right? But I finally worked up the courage to hit play on the video, and on the whole, he actually really liked it. He was laughing and smiling, he complimented me on some of the
Sick.
puzzles, and talked up the potential behind the game's core mechanics.
These mechanics make me think, like, why hasn't someone else made a magnet platformer like this before?
And any
That's cool.
criticisms
That's
he had
cool.
came with brilliant help and advice. For example,
That's also
I
huge,
should
right?
make it-
That's so good. When people actually just get. My favorite is criticism in YouTube comments where people say, "No, you're bad," or on Reddit, like on the internet in general, right? Criticism just revolves around saying something's bad or something's good, and even if they do say that why something's bad, they won't like. Nah, yeah. I was gonna say they won't give a reason, but actually I don't think the player needs to give a reason. The player just needs to say what they don't like and why, and it's the dev's fucking job to figure out the reason, right? Yeah, for sure.
more clear
I'm like, yeah, for sure. I agree with this guy's opinion here. He's pretty smart actually.
the player can't do in any individual puzzle. So if a gap is too big for the player to jump, it should be a really big gap. If a door closes too quickly for the player to get through, it should snap shut immediately. Stuff like that.
That actually makes sense. I fucking hate the most when in a game I think I'm supposed to just do something quickly or get the jump just right, and I end up wasting like 10 minutes of my life just to find out at the end that wait, I was actually supposed to go try like a roundabout way of doing it in the first place, not just get the jump right. And also, a side effect of this is that sometimes you get it too close, and then some player will actually do a god play and manage to get through, and then it kind of breaks your game integrity.
He also gave me another huge piece of advice, which was to simplify the levels, even if that meant making the game easier. Advice which I roundly ignored. More on that in a bit. But anyway, there were
Yeah,
about
more
2
on that in
weeks
a
to
bit.
go
We already know how that ends up with the intro.
for GDC, so I decided to use all of the feedback from my patrons and from Patrick to overhaul the demo. I removed a bunch of levels that just didn't quite work. This one relied way too much on quick reflexes to be a good puzzle. This one had a huge exploit which I couldn't easily fix. I also snuck in one level which was not a puzzle but was just pure platforming to see how players would react to that change of pace. But feedback was mixed, so I've left that on the cutting room floor
Fair.
for now. I also made some
I think it is
new
good to add
puzzles to
levels like that for variety, but yeah, in a tech demo sort of thing where you're really just here to show off the puzzles, I think it might be.
fill in
Yeah,
those
I don't know. I
gaps.
think I'd like it
worked on
personally.
improving the readability
a
of
platform
certain
level.
mechanics in the game. For example, these icons, which denote when a button is linked to an object. I
Wait.
also replaced
I think my camera was
the
covering something there.
readability of certain mechanics in the game. For example, these icons, which
Yeah.
denote when a button is linked to an
Okay, that makes
object.
sense.
And I also replaced this weird magnet sensor thing with a panel of a pulley, which triggers a button when the rope hits. With a panel on a pulley, which triggers a button when the rope hits the bottom point. I also swapped out these simple green buttons for a more satisfying Frankenstein-style switch.
Yep, I like that. I think in general, again, were you able to see that shit?
Full green buttons for a more satisfying Frankenstein-style switch. I made a lock and key.
Shit
for
needs to feel
certain types
tactile,
of
even if you don't,
puzzles, which
literally it's not tactile because I can't fucking touch the pixels, but well, unless you press your eyes against the monitor, but that's not what we're talking about here. It needs to feel like that's why buttons in games in general have like all these fucking clacks and shit. Have you ever seen the have you ever played Satisfactory? In that game, whenever you launch something into space, as you pull a bunch of like these levers and shit, right? All of that is just it just pads out time. It doesn't technically do anything, but it makes it so much more satisfying because it makes it feel more real.
has a pretty satisfying animation when you grab the key. I polished up the pause menu and added in a better title screen. And oh yeah, I made an entire new dialogue system. There's only one prototype conversation in this demo, but it should hopefully give people an idea of what the story might look like in the finished game. So the demo was done and dusted. There was just 1 week to go before San Francisco, and so I gave the game to a key playtester, and as I said in the intro, he was not a fan. He was frustrated and annoyed. He found levels overly complicated and just tedious to play, and in a lot of cases he would simply hand me the controller and say, can you just do this one? And that playtester, that was my dad. What did I say about parents?
Oh, I see what he means now. Okay. I like that. All around it.
But as painful as that playtest was, I think it was also the most important playtest in this entire development process. You see, at that moment, it was like seeing through the Matrix. I could see exactly why and how I had messed up so badly. And I also realized that if I ever met Patrick in person, I would need to buy him a drink for ignoring his brilliant advice. So here's what happened. Every time I would design a level, I would end up with a pretty simple layout for the puzzle, which just tests the player on a single nice little interaction. But then I would assume that players would solve that puzzle immediately. They would instantly smash through the puzzle and decide my game was too easy and thus boring, and thus judge me as a human being to be inherently worthless.
Alright,
So,
overcompensating a
I would be a little
bit.
bit cheeky and add in some extra complexity to the level. I would add in a whole bunch of steps the player needs to go through in order to actually solve the puzzle. And I would add in
I think, yeah, that's not good to do for an introduction level. If games have been doing this for like years now, decades even. Just whenever you add a new mechanic, you make it super easy. You make it the easiest thing in the world until the player does it once, maybe twice. Maybe the second time might be a bit hard. The second time doesn't even have to be harder. You can make it easy the first 5 times if the mechanic is kind of confusing, until the player really gets to know it before you actually add extra challenge into it. Otherwise, like it takes a bit of time to cement into your brain what it does. You'll see in when it's in a vacuum, it's pretty simple because you like try it. Oh yeah, that makes sense. But in actual gameplay, I think it's
these
easy
devious
to not remember the point of literally everything.
where if the player did one thing wrong, they'd be stuck and have to reset the puzzle back to 0. And I would
That's also bad, yeah.
obscure the actual
Being able
solution.
to lock yourself out of finishing a level and having to restart. I mean, it could be fine because this is the kind of game where restarting is easy. You just, but still, okay, I
into
can
the
see that being
puzzle
annoying.
with some red herrings or some other elements. And in doing this devious Machiavellian trickery, I would end up with puzzles that were messy and convoluted and frustrating and tedious to actually play. I was focused so much on making the levels hard, I had forgotten to make them fun.
But again, I don't think that's entirely the problem. I think maybe these levels would have been fun and hard had you introduced them at the right pace. But if the game is pretty short, right, like the demo only took 2 hours to beat, or like the current version, that's just not enough time to introduce too many mechanics and make them all fully fleshed out and hard. So I think really the problem is the pacing more than anything, in my opinion at least.
Oops. And here's
Maybe
the
I'm wrong,
thing. I'd never actually checked that assumption that players would immediately and instantly figure out the solution. Was that actually true? So I took Patrick's advice and remade a whole bunch of levels in the
so you
demo
managed to do it. That's
with
good.
a core focus on clarity, elegance, and simplicity. Take this level, for example. In the original version, you have to use 2 magnets to flip 2 switches simultaneously to lift 2 drill bits to make a laser hit an orb to open a door. It is tedious just describing it. The actual puzzle in this level is, I think, pretty good, but it's obscured behind so much extra fluff. So, I remade it to look like this. It now requires just 1 magnet. It has about 3 or 4 mechanics. It's really small and it's really simple. Will players
Man, this game is a little
immediately
confusing to look
figure out
at
the
when
trick
I
to this
haven't
puzzle?
played it before,
Well,
obviously.
I had literally no time to check. I had to compile the build, chuck it on the Steam Deck, drive to the airport.
Oh, it's on Steam
and
Deck. Okay,
board
that's
the
actually
plane,
kinda
and
sick.
then
That's
sit
so
in
cool.
the same chair for 10
Because yeah, if it was like a PC, if you made it just for PC, then you'd have to fucking throw it into your USB stick and hope that the people there somehow have a a computer that you can plug it into, and like you imagine you're standing over their fucking shoulder, like yeah, just give it a sec, it's just downloading, come on, just breathing into their fucking
10 hours straight,
Steam Deck
like
was smart
AAA
here.
dev in
For sure.
crunch mode. Is that joke going to get me in trouble? Is that going to be like the airport and board the plane and then sit in the same chair for 10 hours straight like a AAA dev in crunch mode? Is that joke
Nah, I've made jokes much worse before. You're good, trust me.
going to get me in trouble? Is there going to be like a angry Twitter thread about that? Okay, so I land in San Francisco, and after a few days of sightseeing, you know,
Although, is there gonna be a angry Twitter thread about it? Probably, but you know, just it's
Alcatraz,
Twitter.
the
Twitter
Golden
be
Gate
Twitter.
Bridge, the sea lions on Pier 39, In-N-Out Burger. Ugh, God, that's the chips. What are you doing? But then it's GDC week, and I give the game to as many people as possible at mixers, at meetups, at a bring your own game event, at meetings, and during breakfast over big stacks of American-style pancakes.
Hell
I guess
yeah.
they're not American-style pancakes, they're just American pancakes. I'm in America. And feedback on the demo was...
Never had American pancakes with syrup before. Literally, because the only times I've ever had maple syrup was with waffles, and it's really sad. I really want to try pancakes with syrup. It's the most basic ass mixture. I can't. You know what? My phone is fucking recording the video. I can't note it down. It's fine. It's fine. We're gonna remember. When I'm editing this video, I will watch this
really
back and I'll be like,
pretty
oh, that's
good.
right. That's
People
what I
kept
wanted to
saying,
do.
This feels like a real video game, and people would refuse to give me the Steam Deck back until they had finished
That's so
the entire
good.
demo. And to
That's
answer
really
that
good.
question of was the game now too easy? No, the game was actually kind of the right level of challenge.
Sick.
That puzzle I just talked about, for example, players would get stuck for like a minute or two and then figure out the solution and have that sort of wide-eyed aha moment I've always been chasing. And they didn't have any of that confusion and frustration. They just
That
found
is
it
really
to be
good.
a good, fun,
Fuck yeah.
satisfying
All right,
puzzle.
good for it, man.
Turns out it was completely the right move. Jesus Christ, that's a big spider.
Don't care
where was
about
I?
spiders personally, but
Turns out
I
it was
can see you shooting
completely
yourself.
the right move to make the game easier. And in fact, I hadn't gone far enough. There was one level in the demo that was still pretty fiddly. One enthusiastic American described it as, gee, this one's a real stumper. And there were
But I feel like the title of the video hasn't made sense too much yet, because don't make assumptions about your players, but you kind of are making assumptions, right? You're making assumptions that they're not... You're making assumptions that they're mediocre at problem solving. Whereas I think the difficulty should spike eventually, right? Otherwise, you know, you do the same puzzle too many times, it just gets repetitive.
also just a bunch
Not the
of
same puzzle even, but specifically the same difficulty.
basic
Unless you keep adding new and new mechanics, which, I mean, how many mechanics can you add for a game about magnets, really? I don't know.
fundamental mechanics in the game that I had never properly taught to players, and that was making them stumble, like being able to use the magnet to ride up to a higher platform or change the magnet's polarity from afar. These were things that I felt were so obvious about my game that I didn't feel the need to have them
Exactly, add
puzzle sort of-
tutorials. I think Hollow Knight did that perfectly. Yeah, it introduces mechanics very slowly. In fact, the game starts you out with a bunch of mechanics, but you don't actually need to know what any of them do. But there are parts of the game where using them could get you over. And if you experiment with your movement enough, you might be able to figure it out. I'm talking about the pogo here early on in the game. Assume your players get good, but start shit, I think is the correct way to do it.
Tutorials. But to someone who has never played my game before, they have no idea. And so this is the big takeaway from this video. American cuisine is pretty bad, but they do know how to make a good breakfast. Wait, no, sorry, that's a wrong video. This
portion
is the
sizes
big
are great,
takeaway
though.
from this video. Always challenge your assumptions about your players. I assumed that players would find my game to be too easy, and so ended up making the levels to be frustrating, complicated, and convoluted. And I assumed that people would know how to play my game, and so forgot to tutorialize about half of the mechanics. Now, I don't feel
Big
too
mistake.
bad because I know that this is actually a really common mistake.
And also
in
great
game
lesson
design.
to learn
It's so
while
easy.
you're still... You're not, you know, selling your game right now, so it's good that you're learning this before the game goes out and to the public, so to speak. I guess people are technically playing it already, but I think you get my point.
It's one of your key jobs to fight this urge and to really try and put yourself in the shoes of the player. So I want to close out this video with
Yeah, and do make assumptions about the player. Assume they're stupid as fucking bricks, but not that stupid actually, because then you get to hand holding. Yeah, it's a fine balance actually. You see that in games all the time. The argument of, oh, Elden Ring doesn't teach you shit, it's too difficult, and then at the same time we got other games that are like, man, I hate that they keep fucking holding my hand. Let me do my own shit. You gotta find the balance, but even when you do get it right, you know, the right is just good enough for the average person in the audience. There's still gonna be the odd dumbass and the old guy that's way too good at the game. It is what it is.
some tips.
You also need big
and
sample
techniques
sizes,
that
I think,
have learned for doing a much more
for
effective
testing shit
job
like this.
at
Which
this.
so I think it's
For
great
one,
that he's
Mario's
testing in his
maker,
Discord or
Shigeru
whatever.
Miyamoto tells his new designers to try playing the games with their left and right hands switched on the controller, which should hopefully give you an experience of being an inexperienced player. That's quite a bold one, but perhaps you can think of ways to simulate the experience of being someone who doesn't have all of your skills and knowledge about the game. Also, Patrick,
Or just
we
get
actually
playtesters
did
that have no
meet
idea
up
what they're
at
doing.
GDC and I bought him that drink.
But you need
Patrick
money for
assured me
that, so yeah, it
thinking
depends.
like a player is
Especially because, you know, these videos that are just like advice for game devs, these are probably more targeted towards small devs because they're the ones that have a lot more control over their, well, like small companies, right? Because if you're a guy watching this and you work at a large company, you probably don't even have a say in what the fuck is going on. You're just doing the very specific part that you were told to do. You know, I guess if you are responsible for the difficulty, then this video is for you. But I literally forgot what my point was. I think I've already made it though, so we're good.
skill that you can hone and develop over
God
time.
fucking damn it.
And as I've shown in this video, I think the best way to achieve this is to watch other people play your game. If possible, you want to be in the same room as them. There's nothing more humbling than sitting next to someone who absolutely doesn't understand what the heck your game is even about. You also want to play with people of all sorts of experience levels and skill
Yeah,
levels.
exactly.
Some
Go
of
for a
my
large sample
absolute
size. Try it with a
best
bunch of different
playtests
demographics.
come from my two nephews, aged 7 and 10.
Might also help you figure
You
out
have
who
to
you want to
watch
advertise
out
your game
for.
to, because then you figure out, okay, I like this difficulty level, but at the same time, people who are fucking 30 on average just play the game better. Should I market it to 30-year-olds, or should I make it easier and then market it to kids? You know what I mean? I think
Bias.
this is such an interesting
Yeah,
topic.
what are your thoughts on the
video?
game?
1 million out of. I love it.
Thank you. Roy, what do you think
yeah.
about Tap again?
I love it.
Thank you. That is, of course, a good reminder to spend more time watching how your playtesters
More time with your
play
kids and
than
less time on your
listening to
job.
what they say. Ooh, that's like, I should put that on like a t-shirt or something. Another tip is to think about your target audience for your game.
Bro,
Have an idea.
I am. Oh my god! Every time I watch a video, I am just so smart. I am the smartest man alive, man.
Of
It's
the
literally
sort of
what I said.
person, the sort of skill
That's what I'm saying,
level,
that's what I'm saying.
experience
Literally
level,
what I
and
said.
Games they like to play. Have that in mind. And
I'm
make sure
not
you
saying I'm the
design
smartest
game
man alive, but
for
I
them.
kind of am,
Make sure
though.
you're picking appropriate playtesters. Experience level and games they like to play. Have that in mind and make sure you're designing the game for them. Make sure you're
Yes, that's
picking
what I said.
appropriate
Which means
playtesters.
his opinion is instantly 10 times more valid because I agree with it. And as you know, that is how internet arguments go.
Big part of this
discussions.
problem was that I was getting really worried that puzzle game experts, people who played and completed Steven Sausage Roll and Baba Is You, that those people would play my game and think it was simple and dumb and bad. But they're not in my target audience. I want this game to appeal to a much wider group of people and players
Exactly.
who
I
enjoy
watched.
more.
I actually saw a bit of Baba Is You gameplay because I was thinking, like, oh, the game looks interesting. It will literally make my brain explode. That game clearly targeted for puzzle dudes like Aliens Rock and not me.
Gentle puzzle adventures like Tokitori, Box Boy, Inside, Limbo, and Portal.
The fuck is
Having
Box
a
Boy?
target audience in mind is a great way to keep your design on track. And of course, there are ways to appeal to.
Oh yeah, I
a
wonder what the
broader
target audience for
too.
Portal is.
If you
Probably
made
just
a really hard game.
the general.
chucked in an assist mode.
It's people that play a bit of normal games, but not that many puzzle games, I'd guess.
If you've made a really easy game, you could put in optional harder content or
Exactly.
post-game stuff.
Just make it
And
harder
finally,
later on.
Don't be
for people
afraid
who want it.
to start stuff from scratch. When you're making a level, there's a lot of discovery involved, and that usually ends up with you
Good game development advice in general. Don't be afraid to start stuff from scratch. A thing about making games and code and just programming in general, developing shit, is that once you get to a specific point, you're like, oh shit, I can't make my characters perform the action, or I can't make the NPCs interact in a specific way just because the initial code was written wrong. And instead of doing some retarded patchwork to make it work, I'm talking about fucking a specific dev that everyone, I think everyone's heard of him. You know the one. Just start from scratch again. Change some element shit. Yeah, it'll take you a while, but it's worth it in the long run.
From scratch. When you're making a level, there's a lot of discovery involved, and that usually ends up with you accumulating a lot of fluff and other garbage as you're figuring out what this level even is. My recommendation then is to then start the level again, but with the knowledge you
Exactly.
have
It's gonna
acquired
be
while
janky on the
doing
first
that
go
first.
around. It's gonna be janky. It's gonna be slightly fucked up, but once you got it down, you just start again, and with a better idea in mind, it'll just work out better.
First draft, you will no
Most
doubt
likely.
end up with a much more elegant and coherent version of the level. I mean,
Exactly.
I always
This is
do
just the
this
first
with
draft.
episodes of Game Maker's Toolkit. The script goes through 5 or 6 different revisions before I hit record. Why wasn't I doing this with the level design? So, I came back from GDC with loads of motivation, great ideas for where to take the game next, and really bad jet lag. I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who said hi or hung out with me at GDC. It was amazing to meet so
That is one too many
people
photos to
who
take.
watch
Being
Game
on
Maker's
video is cool for
Toolkit
me,
or
but I
participate in the
fucking
game
hate
jam
taking
or
photos.
are following me here on this
Oh,
game
actually, no, I'm
development
fine with them
journey. It was
so long
even
as I
cool
get to
meet
do a
that
little
one guy
goofy,
who
like
kept
so long as I
showing
get to
me
go.
his NFTs.
Oh, you know.
Cool dude. You're killing it, bro. I was also just made to feel like part of this wonderful community
Yep.
of game makers, and so I can't wait to go back next year with hopefully maybe a finished game or something.
And you better
much
update
closer
us
to
on
being
that
done
shit,
than it is now.
'cause we're gonna
Until
be
then,
reacting to that
my
video
next
whenever it
job
drops.
is to take another step back and make a demo that explores
Whenever it drops is a bit of a strong statement. Whenever I remember that it dropped.
even more basic, fundamental concepts of my game, and then get that demo in front of people in my key target audience. For now,
Who are?
if you want to play any of the 3 demos I described in this video, they're available for free on itch.io. I'm not taking any more feedback on these demos, but it might be interesting to see how the game is coming along. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.
Cool video. Yeah. Boys. Give him a sub, give him a like. It's a fresh one. Wow, 3 days ago. Let's read some comments actually real quick. Gives you the difficulty of your own puzzle game is near impossible by yourself, as knowing the puzzle solution really screws you over. Yeah, exactly. I think that very much so. And that could be said even about games like Dark Souls, you know, boss games, where you already know the exact AoE of the attack the enemy will have because you fucking saw the guy draw that shit on, map that shit down. Having knowledge is like 90%, basically 100% of puzzle games, and I'd say 50% or 70% of games like of difficulty, like, you know, movement-based games, Challenge, Hollow Knight, Elden Ring, Dark Souls, all of those. Good comment. Words kind of express how jealous I am that you can hand a game you're working on to your parents and actually give an honest try. My parents would never even consider it. L issue. Yeah, I don't think I got much to add. Maybe I'll watch another one of their videos later. Fuck knows. I don't know if it's one guy, because, I mean, the marketing on the channel makes it seem like it's a team, but it's only one guy in this video. We'll see. We'll click some more and see maybe. That's it for this one. See you in the next one. Go check out my main channel because that one's got way better videos. Takes a while to make on those, so probably next time you'll probably see one is like a year down the line. All right,